Hello, I'm Phoebe Boucher, managing editor of Raven Chronicles Press. This is Raven Talk, Raven's online podcast of conversations with writers, artists, and cultural warriors. Today, Anna Bálint is talking with Nancy Rawles, author of her recently reissued novel, My Gym. We recognize that the city of Seattle sits on the traditional unceded Coast Salish land of the Squamish, and other Coast Salish peoples. This program is partially supported by a Centering Arts and Racial Equity CARE grant from the Seattle Office of Arts and Culture and an Arts Sustained Support grant from For Culture with funding from King County Doors Open. Anna Bálint is a London-born, Seattle-based poet, writer, editor, and cultural activist of East European descent. Her many years of editorial work with Raven Chronicles includes co-editing Take a Stand, Art Against Hate anthology, winner of the 2021 Washington State Book Award for Poetry, and editing Words From the Café, an anthology of writing by people in recovery. Her short fiction collection, Horse Thief, Curbstone Press, 2004, spans cultures and continents and was a finalist for the Pacific Northwest Book Award. Anna has taught creative writing for many years and in many places, and currently she is a teaching artist at Recovery Café, where, in 2012, she founded a safe place writing circle for people in recovery from trauma, addiction, mental illness, and homelessness. The anthology Pandemic Blues, Writing Through the Pandemic by Anna and Safe Place Writers will be published by Raven Chronicles Press in early 2026. Nancy Rawles is the award-winning novelist of Love Like Gumbo, winner of the American Book Award from the Before Columbus Foundation, and My Gym, a novel that brings to life the missing voice of the wife of Jim in the Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. My Gym won an Alex Award from the American Library Association, the Legacy Award in Fiction from the Hurston Wright Foundation, and was selected by the Seattle Public Library Center for the Book for the 2009 Seattle Reads program. In her New York Times review, Helen Schulman called My Gym as heart-wrenching a personal history as any recorded in American literature. Penguin Random House has just released a 20th anniversary edition of My Gym. In addition to writing, Nancy has been a history teacher for many years. Her curious students have demonstrated the myriad ways history is important to them, their families, and the advancement of this country. For this, she is grateful. Anna?
Thank you, Phoebe. And welcome, Nancy.
Thank you.
I think we're going to have fun tonight. I hope so. I'm really excited about this 20th anniversary edition because I was so excited about the first edition. And so the fact that it's sort of roaring back 20 years later is, in fact, it's like now is really the time this book is needed even more urgently than before. I'm going to just add one little blurb that is on the back of the new edition. My Gym is a haunting and inspiring story about inheritance, longing, and the liberating power of Black love in a world that did everything to extinguish it. And what really sort of strikes me about the book as a whole is how much it contains in what is, by many standards, a short novel, 161 pages or thereabouts. And yet, in reading it, my experience was like I felt that I had been away from this reality, this world, for a long time. You know, that I was with Sadie, Jim's love, going through her life. It just really, really did feel like a long time, which is kind of an accomplishment in and of itself. But I want to focus first on the fact that this novel is all about storytelling and the passing down of history through the telling of stories. And so you've set the novel up that way to be storytelling. And this, you've got two narrators, am I right? You've got Sadie, who is the main narrator, but also her granddaughter, Marianne, whose narration begins the novel. And I would love it if you could read something from that opening section that sort of gives us a framework for all that follows.
Of course, I would be happy to. The opening chapter is called Jar. By the way, the book is organized into chapters, each following an object. So this chapter is called Jar, and it begins this way. Chaz Freeman asked me to marry him. Take me by the hand, take me in his arms, lift me on the horse and jump up right behind me. Show me a letter, say he got duty with the North Cavalry at Fort Robinson, Nebraska. Got to ride out there and chase down them savage whites and Indians. I'm real happy for Chaz. He's so proud. But I don't want to go to Nebraska, and I tell him so. Cloud come over his face, and he get real quiet. You think on it, he say. Me, I can't sharecrop no more. I wasn't born a slave, and I ain't gonna live like one. Who gonna keep the land, I says. But he ain't got no answer. I come back for you Sunday, about noon, he say. You come if you want me. You the one I want. Chaz, always sure about everything. Me, I ain't so sure. I cries when he leaves me at Nana Sadie's cabin. Nana in there shucking corn. Why you all the way crying? She want to know. You ever seen a bird crying? Here you sitting free as a bird and crying like a beat down dog. What's your name? She say. Marianne Lieber. You free Marianne. Got a free man asking for your hand. What you gonna say, gal? I ain't crying no more, but I still can't find my words. I haste to think about leaving my Nana. She can't hardly see, but she see my fear. She lighted her pipe, looking at me out the corner of her eye. If slaves can love, you can love, she say. Chaz love you, and he wants you to marry him. I gives you to my blessing. You scared to love, because you scared to lose. You want to stay here forever? Long time ago, I wants to stay, she say. I wants to stay, and they ain't let me. She move away from me. Ain't love make you lose everything. Life just mean, that all. I cries thinking about how they forced me to leave my husband, how they tear my children from me all them years ago. I wants to stay, and they ain't let me. What husband? I says. What children? I never hears you call their names. My Jim, she whispered. My Elizabeth, my Johnny. Been years since I called their names. She back in slavery days, back for the war. Some old people talk about them times, but their grandchildren ain't want to hear it. My Nana never talk about her captive time. I scared to trouble her about it. She mad at me for bringing back the shame of them days. But I almost a woman, and I wants to know my Nana's heart. Maybe it's 'cause she thinking I gonna leave that Nana Sadie decide to talk. Maybe she just want to tell somebody.
Yeah. So Marianne, her granddaughter, really gives her an invitation to share. And then, of course, the rest of the book kind of opens up and responds to that invitation. But I was wondering if you can there's a couple of lines in particular that kind of jump out at me about if slaves can love, then you can love. And then, about being too scared to love because you're scared to lose. And kind of like, I mean, that's something that runs all the way through the novel. And I wondered if you could talk about that a little bit.
Well, if you love, especially if you love deeply, if you love with your heart, I mean, you're gonna lose at some point. You're gonna lose because you're risking everything. And even if you are fortunate enough to be able to stay with the people you love and the people who love you, just even the fear of losing them is enough to, at times really, really make you deeply sad at the thought of the loss. So loving is inherently a risky action. And I think, as you said, I think this book is in some ways more important now because of the times that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of the book and the understanding I had writing the book, and something that's been really important to me in teaching, is the idea that resistance comes in many, many forms, and that one of the forms it comes in is managing to love when you literally have everything and everyone to lose.
Yes, which is every single day right now in Gaza.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And with ICE.
Yes, yes. I mean, I see echoes of this book everywhere. I see parents and children being torn apart. I can see people, running and being chased and captured, and all the images coming out of Los Angeles, the images of people just being pursued and persecuted and made to run everywhere, and there's no safe hiding place, and they're just so aware, especially in a place like Gaza, of their captivity, and their lack of control over their bodies, their lack of control over where they can go and where they can't go. And just the fact that there's no escaping.
Yes, and it's sort of like there's echoes. I mean, the thing that's in this passage with her granddaughter Marianne is that Marianne has something that wasn't possible under slavery. You didn't have a choice to stay or to go. Those choices were made for you.
It's true.
And that Marianne does have this choice. It doesn't mean that everything's going to be hunky-dory or anything, but it's a difference. And I mean, it's kind of like that. That's part of the invitation for Sadie to tell her story, right? Because she didn't have that choice. And her story is all bound up.
I just want to mention something now that's coming back to me. When I first started writing this book, I was teaching in a fourth grade classroom, as both of us have done when we've taught in the schools as writers. Sometimes we might share our own work and other times not. I am not used to sharing my own work with students, but I was in this fourth grade class, and I thought, they're studying history. I had talked to their teacher about it. They're studying history. They know some of this history. I want to see what they know, and I want to talk to them about what I'm doing. So I said, okay, well, I'm writing a book, and it's a love story. So of course, that gets the attention of fourth graders. And then I said, but the book takes place before the Civil War. Does anybody know about something that was happening before the Civil War? And they did. They had studied it. So they knew right away that we were talking about slavery. And I asked them what they knew about slavery, and they said, many different things, like some of the things we've talked about and other things. And then I asked them what they thought might have been of all of these really hard, awful, tragic, difficult, brutal realities of being an enslaved person. What did they think was the hardest? Which is not really a fair question. It's not a fair question, right? But they're fourth graders, so they're up to it. And they say, somebody raised their hand right away and says, being separated from your family. And everybody cried.
Mm-hmm.
All these kids, the thought of it. And here we see this, just like we were talking about. We see just this brutality, this horror of, very purposefully, very intentionally tearing people apart, and making it so that their lives are not valued by not only the people who are persecuting them, but the larger society, in the sense that even speaking out is something that has been censored, very, very heavily at real cost. So it's just hard to see. It's hard to see that happening, and there's no turning away.
No. And it's also, one of the things that's, I think, different, well, it's clearly different from Huck Finn or more recently James, which is in my gym, an alternative title could have been Sadie's Story, because the focus is, the focus is on women and girls, because it starts with Sadie's experience as a girl and the vulnerability of women's bodies in all the different ways that they can be hurt because of their bodies, from being raped and forced to have babies and then having their babies taken away from them. Just that piece alone, it's like shapes Sadie's entire existence, and including the beginning of her relationship with Jim.
Yeah, it's true. Their relationship begins, you could say it begins at his birth, but it even begins before he's born, really, because, his mother is pregnant with him, and his mother does not want to bring a child into the world who's going to be a slave. She really does not want to give birth to this child, and she does not want him to live. And when she does, get ready to give birth, she leaves the fields and she goes off with a woman who's a midwife. And Sadie is a little girl, but she's there helping. And she sees him come into the world, and the cord is tied around his neck, and it's not clear that he's going to live. But then part of her job is to hand the instrument, I guess, to the midwife, and free him, which of course is the irony, that in freeing he is then in bondage.
Right. Yes. And it's also, I think there's a couple of things that she says in that section, which is called knife. And the knife is referencing, right, what they cut the cord with.
Yes.
Her mother's knife. And she says, when Jim born, I ain't no higher than a barrel, which gives you a real sense of her as a small child. And then how it's Cora, the midwife, feels for the cord and holds it out for Sadie to cut.
Mm-hmm.
So, that in and of itself is kind of like a very special role. And then her mother takes her and helps her bury the cord under the tree.
Yes.
And I'm just thinking of kind of like and that's just the birth. And then she says later, I got a couple of things I just picked up on that. Me takes care of Jim like a sister. And then a little later on, Jim become my brother. He stand up and walk early so he can follow me around the yard. So
So they have an intimacy from the beginning, you know,
Yeah,
and
yes.
and of course, it's the intimacy of children. I mean, of children who love each other, and that I think, you know, for those of us who have been fortunate enough to spend a lot of time with children, to be around children, be around young children, you know, to see the little one trying to follow behind the one who's a little bit older, with all of the kind of imagination and awe, you know, that goes with that, and adoration, you know. So their first their first close relationship is as children in the same place, in the same situation together, um, and her helping him from the beginning.
And then when he do you want to just quickly describe under the circumstances under which he disappears from Sadie's life, and then he comes back as this young man with a hat?
Yes, he disappears because he is he's hired out, which was something that happened quite a lot. So he's there on the Mississippi. It's in Hannibal, and he is hired to work on the docks. So there are a lot of young men and a lot of enslaved men who work the docks as stevedores, and he becomes one of them when he is still still young. I don't even think he's a teenager yet, or you know, that age yet. He's not an adult. He's a kid who starts to work on the docks. So Sadie then doesn't see him because he's in town.
And then when he comes back, I love this part. I mean, it's got a lot of humor in it.
Yeah, I love it too.
Do you want to read that bit?
Yeah, I would like to. Let me find it. The chapter is called Hat, and it is what I was writing when I was talking to those fourth graders.
Uh-huh.
So that's part of why it's dear to me also.
Yes.
So here I'm going to read some of it. Was the hat got me, snuck up without me paying no mind. I smell somebody here. Figures is one of them smokehouse boys. Smell like crushed bitter root, old turnip greens. He know me for I knows him. I working in the pack house, been over a pile of tobacco leaf when he come up behind me and squeeze my neck. I turn so fast, my elbow catches chin. He howl a bit. I thinks he's fooling, but then I see he got a fresh wound on his chin. You've been in a fight. Somebody done cut you, I says. Piece of limestone done it, he say. They got me working the pit when it's slow on the docks. Them stone workers all the time want to fight. They want to fight, I gives them one. Me and them dock workers, we whip them good. You sitting up on them docks, drinking corn liquor, make you want to fight. He give me a smile, and I know him then. A foot taller and a yard wider. Every bit a man now. I still thinking he my little brother, but he a man now, and he got a hat.
I just love that. I love that. And then it's kind of like he comes in. I mean, it's such a character. We'll talk about an entrance.
Right.
But then, you know, it's like her hesitation based on the experience that she's already lived as being inside a female body and witnessing not only her own experience. She says, I ain't never loves no man. I ain't never loves my father. No man does ever treat me gentle. I stays away from them. I don't want their babies. And she reiterates that thing about not wanting babies. She says to Jim know all that. He look at me and see something he wants. And I wants him too. I wants his hat. But I ain't what's his babies. Yeah. So, and I mean, there's lots more having to not only about Sadie's own experience, right, but things that she witnesses.
Right, exactly.
Yes, yes. And so, but I think alongside of that, there's another piece that has to do with her being a woman that's really important. And also for me, anyway, has ripples into reality today. And that's that Sadie is also a healer. And
Yes,
it's something that her mother was a healer, and her grandmother, who was in Africa, in Congo, was a healer. And this is being passed down. And with healing comes power, the power to heal, but
that's right.
also potentially the power to do harm.
Yes. And there is one time in the book um, where she begins to poison little by little a very cruel man who is holding slaves in just the worst possible condition. And he coerces her, he rapes her, he takes after her daughter. I mean, he just is, you know, a brutal human being, and she starts to poison him, and there are many times that she thinks about harming people, and there are times when she thinks about harming herself.
Mm-hmm.
And this was something that was not uncommon, of course, for people in the situation she's in. Um, but she is a healer, and her mother teaches her about the herbs, about the leaves, about healing, and it actually a lot of the book was very well researched, and the events in the book, even there's an earthquake, there's a meteor shower. I mean, there's just all kinds of things that happen in the book that actually did happen. And along with the Dred Scott case is mentioned. I mean, there's all kinds of things, and the curing. A lot of that research came from a particular scholar who was at Occidental College. Her name is Charlotte Fett, and she wrote a book called Working Cures, and it was about women who were enslaved doctors, and how they had a certain status and had occasion sometimes to leave and to be taken from the fields and brought into town to work cures, or taken from the fields to work cures even amongst the slave population when there was a sickness going around. So she does have a certain power, and it leads people eventually to think of her as a witch.
Right.
So
Yeah. Yes, and that she's demonized, right? And that's what made me think of kind of like this long historical thing, that this is part of, it's its own unique story, but it's also connected to the witch hunts of Europe,
yep.
which was, attacking women who were healers. And then I think of Louise Erdrich's character of Fleur.
Oh yeah.
Yes, who has quite a bit in common with Sadie. And and then I think about into today with what's going on in Gaza, and how the healers, the hospitals, the doctors, they become a target.
Yes, they do. Um, because of that power, and
Mhm.
it's, I mean, it's power for good. And I think people who exercise power for evil, I mean, I really don't know what other word to use. Um, they can't have that, right? They can't have that power for good. They want to destroy it. So,
Right.
yeah.
Did you have anything else specifically that in terms of the role of women and girls, or also the significance that these storytellers in here are two women.
I have something that is kind of on my mind. It's from that hat chapter. It's not far from the beginning, but I'm looking for it. Let me see if I can find it. It's Sadie accuses Jim of kissing girls down at the dock. He's she says, you're down there, you are kissing girls and carrying on down in town, and why should I trust you? Once he is kind of declaring his love for her. Actually, I don't see it right now, but basically,
I got it.
Oh, you got it? Where is it?
Where I've got the different edition. Mine's on page 63 at the bottom. You've been kissing gals at the docks, I says, and then he laughs. You've been kissing white gals, I says.
Ah, yeah, okay, and then it goes to, yes, I've got 64. Let's see. Gal so white she might be white, he say. Can't know for sure. I ain't wants you kissing me no more, I says. You gonna leave me for some yellow gal. I ain't gonna leave you for nobody. You only one I wants to kiss. He sound real serious. Tell me about the other gals, I say. He lay back with his hands behind his head. Let me see, he said. There's a gal come to market every day for her mistress. If she find me there, she kiss me. From the time I just a boy, she looking at me. I ain't likes it first, and the other boys tease me. But when I gets a little older, I starts looking for her too. She wear a hat, that gal, straw with a fat green ribbon. Her mistress give it to her one Christmas. He lay real still. One day not long ago, I seen her boarding a steamer, he say. Chain round her leg, belly big with child. They say she throw herself in the river before they make Cairo. They say she big with the baby for her mast. Her mistress done sail her away. And this was also something that was not uncommon. Sadie thinks about this woman. She can't stop thinking about her. Thinking about how she, again, it's ironic. I mean, she throws herself overboard, and it's like an attempt to save herself and save her child from this life, which of course is one idea about freedom. There's so many different ideas about freedom in this book, and I was really interested in exploring that. And there is an idea of freedom that freedom comes with death. That you're finally free. You can finally shake off this life, and of course, a lot of religion is based on that idea of your spirit being released. So there's just a lot of kind of things that I think are very familiar in terms of how people think about freedom, but we don't necessarily see all of the contradictions that are there for people who do not have choice and do not have autonomy.
Well, this thing about not having choice, it's kind of like there's, like you say, there's always a risk in loving. There's always the risk of losing. But the stakes were so much higher under slavery because there was so many different ways that you could lose.
It's true. And from the slave, I took a lot from the oral histories and also from the narratives. And one of the things that's common in the narratives is this idea of women not wanting to have children,
Right.
not wanting to give birth. And in order for that to happen, for them to be able to not give birth, especially if they were coupled, especially if they were married, um, you know, they had to know something about abortion, basically.
Mm-hmm.
They had to know that. They had to know something about that, how to stop the pregnancy, how to stop a baby from coming.
I think that's something in terms of Sadie's learning as a healer that she got from her mother. I mean, that's one of the things she learns, right? Which plants.
Oh yeah, it's very, very important. And you can only imagine how important it would be under those circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, when she talks to her mother about it, because her mother is a teacher, and she talks to her mother about it, and her mother says that children who really, really want to come, like there's some children, and you can't stop them from coming.
And Sadie was one of them, right?
Sadie was one of those children.
Yeah, yeah. So I love the way. I mean, one of the things I love about this book as a whole is the language and the imagery and the intimacy that's in that. Ever since I learned to walk, I follows Mama to the woods and open fields. We gathers roots and flowers. She take my hand and teach me the feel and shape of things. The heart leaf or burr seed, soapweed, bloodroot. I takes in everything she do. I mean, so it's kind of like, I love that passage because it also gives you the way that people, there's moments of kind of intimacy and joy that you can't take away everything.
Right, right. And those relationships. I mean, I say this as a love story. There's so many different love stories within this book.
Yes.
Different kinds of love, different kinds of intimacy, and and all of it is so important. All of it is vital. And the fact, again, like Sadie says to her granddaughter, if slaves can love, you can love.
Right.
It really is just, incredible. I mean, for so many of us with our histories, all of our different histories, where basically people have tried to kill us or, make sure that we would never rise, would never get the boot off of us. It's really quite incredible that not only do people live, but they can pass down, things, stories and objects and memories and history, and that we're still here, as much as the efforts have been to get rid of people. I mean, all around the world, right? All around the world. I mean, modern day, we have, words for it, right? We have genocide, we have ethnic cleansing, we have different things like this. These are things that have happened through so many different peoples and indigenous peoples and all kinds of people all over the world have this story. It's this collective trauma, and somehow, I mean, not everybody lives, but somehow, I think I always have understood, like when you read about somebody just laying down in the snow and dying, or taking to the bed and never getting up again. I mean, those people I could always understand easily. The difficulty was understanding, and being able to imagine the people who get up and who keep living for other people. You know, they're living. I mean, especially I think you see this with women, but not only women. You see it with a lot of men. You know, where you have all these people you're caring for, and you can't leave them.
Yes.
You live for them.
Every mother's story.
It is.
Yes. I think it's very significant what Sadie says sort of kind of towards the end of that section where she and Jim are really realizing their love and allowing it, and how she says, I can't find the quote now. Oh yeah, here it is. That his love good like my mama's. I ain't miss her so much now I got my Jim.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it's kind of like that she's also allowing the love to come in, even though she was guarded against it. Ultimately, she lets it in.
Yes. And she also has an experience. She has a girl who is her age, who she becomes very close to. And this is also a kind of first experience of love in the sense of being physically very close to someone. And this girl is sold away. And it is one of, she talks about it. I mean, losing her mom, losing Gwen. This girl's name is Gwen. And eventually they are reunited because Gwen is sold away. And it was when people were sold away and sent downriver to the slave mart in New Orleans and put in the sugarcane fields. I mean, that was really a fate that often equaled death. And she's sold down there, and Sadie also gets punished and sold downriver, and they actually do reunite at one point. So there's that love of close friendship too. I mean, there's so many really different ways of loving, and this was something that people that really couldn't be beaten out of you.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it seems like it's ultimately it's that love, the gift of love and the importance of love that she passes on to Marianne through the making of a quilt that she'll take with her wherever she goes. And there's a couple of places towards the end of the book that just, I mean, they really are wrenching but beautiful. She says, everybody who love come back. Sooner or later, they come for you. You feel their hand on your shoulder, or they spirits in the room with you. Some sitting quiet, some raging, settling over you like dust. Sometimes it's their voice that come, their fingers pulling your hair in the night. And then a little later still, you take that quilt wherever you go. When you're old and war, you think on me and all the others love you. You close your eyes and feel our love coming up behind you. That's all you got in the world.
That's all. And that's a lot.
That's a huge love.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's also, can you just real quickly kind of like how that is also tied up with this whole thing of history. History can get taught with dates and all kinds. I mean, I loved history as a kid until I got a really, really bad teacher. Mm-hmm. And then I switched to hating it for a while. But I think one of the things that you really kind of learn through this is how the most important history is the history that comes handed down through story, because that's where the details are. That's where the actual living experience is.
It's true, but it's also fascinating that you can get some of those details from primary source documents. This is true for the early California History Project at the Huntington Library in Los Angeles, where you'll just have these records, right? You'll just have the baptismal records, for example. And here is it'll be recorded what the person's indigenous name is, what tribe they're from, what village they're from. And then it'll be recorded what their baptismal name is and who their godparents are. And of course, all of this has now been changed to Spanish. And they're now forbidden to speak their language and have to live at the mission and will surely die at the mission. I mean, you see this, and you see it in these different just recordings. In Louisiana history, there's a fabulous database. Gwen Midlow did this. Gwendolyn Midlow Hall did a database on freed person and enslaved people in Louisiana, and it's huge. I mean, it's so many tens of thousands of people, and again, you have the record of where they're from, where they came from, even it's an interesting comparison, isn't it? That you'll have the Ellis Island records and the ships that they came in on from mostly from Europe or from the Middle East or different places, and then you have the records of the slave ships and the names of the slave ships. And I will have my students look at these databases, and sometimes I'll say, okay, so you choose your name or a name of somebody you know or somebody close to you know, or name close to your name or however you want to do it, and look in this database and see if you can find somebody with that name. And I use my name as an example, where there are plenty of people, with Nancy. I mean, it's a very common name. And in the slave database, there's quite a number of people. And I remember when I first found a Nancy who was a four-year-old girl, gave some, just a few data points. She was 4 years old. She was sold from this place to this place. She was sold away from her mother. This is the price that was paid for her. And when I show that to my students, I mean, they really are horrified, you know? And because it's also just so cold, right? It's so, here she is. This is the name she's been given. This is her age. Most of the students I've taught, no matter what age they are, they either know 4-year-olds or they remember being a 4-year-old. So the idea of a 4-year-old being sold away from her mother and this exchange of hands from one plantation to another, from one man to another, it is properly shocking for them. And it's not the whole story, but it's a little, just very small look at what you can imagine life would be like for this child.
It just made me think of some of the children today who it's maybe not the child that's wrenched away, it's their parent.
Yes, that's right.
Off to who knows where, and the 4-year-old child is.
Yes, the 4-year-old child is being taken care of by the 11-year-old.
Yes.
It has a binder saying who to call if ICE takes your parents.
Yeah, so I think we should probably close. I don't know if there's anything in particular that you want to add, or in terms of anything really about the book itself, or about its relevance today. Anything you feel that we've missed?
No, but I do think, I do think that our ancestors are there for us in that sense, that they are there to draw courage from. And I think that's really important in times like these, where it really is so easy to be afraid, and to be afraid all the time, and to not act because of the fear. And it always is important to remember that courage is about acting when you are afraid. that it's not about not having fear. It's about taking your heart and going forward through this fear and through these terrible circumstances. So just as there are all these tragedies and cruelties that are happening constantly, there's courage that is almost unfathomable. What people will do, what they'll do in the worst of circumstances, courage and generosity. That's the most amazing thing about us. And it's the kind of courage that you don't want to have.
Right.
But the fact that it's there for so many people, that it's available to so many people, is really quite extraordinary.
And I think a facet of that is people's humanity, the way that it literally shines through. There's so much effort that's put into dehumanizing people in one way or another. I'm also thinking of people who are incarcerated, but again.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was thinking about that when we were talking. I was thinking about women giving birth in chains.
Right.
I mean, this is now. This is today. Women who are taken from prison to the hospital, chained to the bed, and then giving birth in the hospital with a guard there. I mean, it's when you do not value life, it's there in every time and every place. And I think about the work people are doing nowadays, the modern day abolition work that people are doing around prisons. And I think, it's kind of sad that it's still so relevant.
I think we've pretty much run out of time, but I just realized one thing that we didn't touch on, but I want to kind of just mention because you brought it up, which is that slavery is not gone anywhere. It's very much alive in the world today. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. Oops, we lost Nancy.
She was coughing, I think.
Huh?
I think she was coughing.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to have one of you hold up the book.
Well, Nancy should, because I've got the old.
She's got the new edition, right?
Yes.
Yeah. When she gets back on.
She's going to come back on. She may have. This happened when we were on the other day. She suddenly got cut off.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, there you are.
Oh, there she is.
Nancy. I heard what Phoebe said, so
yeah.
I'm happy to hold up a copy. This is the new edition.
Okay.
Can't quite see it all.
Phoebe, you're going to have a lot to cut here.
No, there's nothing to cut.
Okay.
It's perfect. Okay, great. Great.
Yes. So there'll be other events coming up, right, Nancy?
Yes. There's the panel that we're both involved with at the downtown Seattle Public Library on October 19th. Is about banned books. And my gym has had the distinction of joining that long list. I think it was banned. It was actually one of the first books that were banned. That was banned. It was really interesting to me by Florida, and by a certain county in Florida that was kind of leading the banning of books. It's the county that has Sarasota, and my gym was banned in 2022. And I just found it kind of interesting. Like, wow, somebody read it, or somebody knew enough. They wanted to ban it. They knew it was about slavery. I mean, I'm not really sure what caused them to ban it, but Florida, when the book was first published 20 years ago, outside of the Pacific Northwest and Washington State, the place that I think the book might have been read the most was Florida.
Wow.
So, I mean, this is a perfect example. This is what happens, right?
Yeah. Right.
It's in reaction
Yeah.
to change that you have to, you have to really just get, I mean, incredibly oppressive. Not because people are all falling in line, but exactly the opposite.
Right.
Right.
Yes, having a banned book has almost become like a badge of honor.
Yeah, it's like being on Nixon's enemies list.
Okay, on that
Okay.
great note, let's
It's called.
thank you, Nancy. That's great.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to getting my copy of the new edition.
Well, I will have one for you.
Great.